Well, it's very good to be here with you all this morning. This has been what I could describe as a surreal week. Just fleshing out that biography a little bit, I did grow up in Huntington Beach, California, and God put me in a Christian home. I'm grateful for that. I had a good upbringing. I went to Biola and graduated in 1996 with my degree in nursing. And then I met this crazy guy from Texas, and we went to the UK in 1998, and that has basically been our home ever since, with the exception of a couple of periods out for sabbatical work. So that's the setting. The UK is largely the setting for where we've done disability work. Our son Adam was born in Germany. The other two have been born in Aberdeen. So to come back to my roots, so to speak, and speak about disability with people has been a real interesting mix of worlds. So I'm still kind of getting adjusted to that. I can't claim to be suffering from jet lag anymore. We've been here for 2 weeks now, so it's just the kind of ways that God moves in our lives. I think what I want to start by saying is that I am grateful for a really good background, like I said, and a good preparation for life, both Biola and in my family. But nothing prepares you for learning how to live well with disability when that enters your life. So we are all on a journey, and we're all at different places. We're all here for different reasons. We're all on a journey, and I want to start by saying I am no expert. I am still early on in this. Adam's only 11 and a half. We're joining in this journey with you, and we're parents, and we're friends, and brothers and sisters, and teachers, and a whole host of roles in here, but we all have something to learn, and I would be the first one to say that. So I'm grateful for all that I'm going to hear this morning as well from the other speakers. And I have done some work in Aberdeen with a charity called Welcoming Church Forum, which I helped to create in 2009 because I found that our family was sitting in church with our son and basically isolated. They didn't know what to do with us. We didn't know what to do with them. So I wanted to have a space where we could have conversations about these issues, where we could just engage. So creating space for talking and exploring the ideas about disability and what does it mean for us and how does it transform us. This is what I do, and I think best in pictures. So what I've done is put together a slideshow of some pictures of from Adam's life, from our journey with him so far, and hope that as I will talk about some of the slides, I've added in some questions, some reflective questions, because I don't want to act like I'm going to teach you anything. I want to reflect together and ask questions. I hope we can do that, and I hope you'll enjoy the space that I'm trying to create. Do you think I could get a drink of water? I'm sorry, public speaking is not my greatest gift either, and God continues to challenge me in that. I'll start with, this is my title, Photo Diary of a Life Adapted to Learning to Live with Disability. Oh, I think I'm going to get 2 glasses of water. Where it all began, this picture is very difficult to see because Adam is under blue lights in the hospital. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sometimes you'll find with nurses, we're a weird bunch, and we either want to be around a lot of technology or nothing at all, and I fell into the latter category. I'd been a neonatal intensive care nurse in London for 5 years. I had been around every machine possible, and I didn't want any of it when my children were born. So Adam was born at home, and it was great for about 3 days until he was diagnosed with neonatal sepsis and went straight into the neonatal intensive care unit for 2 weeks. The irony was not lost on me, but the first experiences of emotions that we had with Adam were shock and fear and uncertainty. What am I going to do? How will I know what to do? That was the first thought I had. We had 2 weeks in the hospital where our first understanding was sepsis. Our second understanding dawned on us about 13 days in when I saw he was in a German hospital, and we knew enough German then, I saw on the chart, suspected trisomy 21. So that was our first introduction to, this is not just an illness. This is something a little bit more pervasive that we will have to figure out how to live with. And like I said, my first thought was, how am I going to know what to do for him? I'd read, some of you may empathize with this, I'd read that book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, cover to cover, and I went home and threw it away because I thought, this is no longer going to help me. Now, what I have to do, and what we all have to do, is start with the person in front of us. So, here's Adam. What are we going to do about him? So, this is our whole range of emotions that overwhelm you. It's already overwhelming the first few weeks of a new life, but underneath all of the wires and the lights and everything else was our gorgeous son. So, the overshadowing of all the trauma, we tried to see through that and to also see that we've got a gift here and this is our new life. And so my first question is, what are our expectations in ministry? And in what ways can we start ministry with a conversation about who we are and who is in front of us in our churches and schools? Before we even start to decide what we want to do, who are we? This is my first question. And the development of sibling relationships, vital and lasting. So this is actually a picture of hands holding, and it's Adam's brother Caleb, who was born 2.5 years later. This is actually a picture from just a few years ago, but I really like it because it shows that, those bonds that we are hoping will grow between the two of them. Caleb's middle name is Thomas, one meaning of which is the devoted brother. That was our hope for him. Even before we knew who Caleb was, we wanted to know that we would have a devoted brother. Our hope is that we will have a devoted brother to Adam. And this is because the future for Adam is vital. Who he will have surrounding him as he grows up, as we age, this is important, an important question for us. And obviously our hope is that family will surround him. For them, a love for Adam is equal to and involves a sense of care for him, and we can't pretend that that's not there. So for Adam to be loved by his siblings always will mean that there's some aspect of care that is implicitly demanded of them. There's not just the person with a disability who we're talking about. We're talking about family units and what those relationships look like and how far they extend, and they can often extend greatly. So my question for this slide would be, how are we planning for the relationships in our ministry? How are we looking to the future to create a sustainable ministry, not only with the people with disabilities in our church, but also for their family as a whole, their communities, their friends? I've just realized I can see the slide over there too, so that's kind of fun. This is a picture of Adam with one of his cousins, and again, it's a few years ago. They're on it's a big bouncy castle place in Texas, which Adam loved, but he needed help to get kind of up and down, and his cousin just kind of automatically took his hand. And I don't know if you can tell, but we could tell that his cousin was enjoying it. This was his first contact with somebody who had disabilities, and again, it's a family member, and it was fun for them to build that relationship on their own. Our task with our family is a little more difficult by virtue of the thousands of miles that are between us. So we do lament that fact, but God has called us to be where we are, and we feel supported in that. Just because Adam has been born into a loving family doesn't mean we know what to do with him, though. So our job has involved teaching and supporting our own family members in how to love Adam and what it means to be around him, answering questions, reassuring them. This obviously changes dynamics in a family, but it's been very enriching for us. One of the points that really stuck out to me, we've been at this Johnny and Friends disability conference this last week, and it was fantastic. And one of the things that stuck out with me and stayed with me, a comment that Johnny made the first night about we're not just doing the gospel work or talking about the gospel. We're becoming the gospel to people. And, that's kind of what I see in these family relationships as they develop, that there is a gospel becoming amongst us, even, as we're learning how to be together. So my question would be, in our areas of ministry, how do we support the whole family, every member, to grow in Christ, to grow in understanding, and in their particular role in advocacy? So do we include any elements of teaching in our ministry for all of the various needs that are involved in living well with disability? The next slide, this is a fun one. In my experience, it's very natural for our family, for the families that I know who live with disability, to just plug away with what we're doing. We just do what we're doing. We don't really think about including other people in that life. And for many, the honest truth is because there are a lot of people who don't want to be included in our messiness. So that reality makes you protective. I'm extremely protective of Adam. We're all very protective of, we feel acutely any stares or any comments. We try to avoid that. So that's natural. But then there are friends like Stuart. This is our friend Stuart in Aberdeen. He's a good Glaswegian, and his wife Meg, and their sons, and they have always come right alongside us. They've always wanted to be involved. It just seemed normal to them, and so that was a ministry to us. That was a blessing to us. It's normal to let them be part of our life. That opening up of relationships is a very good thing. People really want to find simple ways to learn how to love someone like Adam. Very simple, concrete ways that they can be involved. It feels manageable, and that feels welcome. So I've called this, relationships with friends in the wider community, allowing for diversity and living teaching. This is what I think living teaching looks like. It's allowing someone to walk alongside, in this case, our child or someone with a disability, and really learn and grow as they're living with them. You see those smiles. Adam was loving having a piggyback ride from Stuart. He didn't want to walk, and we knew that he could walk, so we were saying, no, you can walk, and Stuart asked if he could carry him. And for both of them, this is clearly a great moment. When we let these moments happen, we are encouraging Adam in his ministry, I think. Adam has his own ministry, and if I keep protecting him from that, if I keep doing it for him, or telling others what to do, I don't let those moments really grow into what they can be. So my question here is, how are we bringing the whole community into our ministry with people with disabilities? How are we learning from each other? That's the role of friends as teachers and carers, helping to develop life skills. A few years ago, we went to Texas for my father-in-law's 70th birthday, and it was a big week of activities, and my mother-in-law had just amazingly asked this woman from her church to come and walk alongside Adam for that week so that we could kind of be a little more involved with the activities than we normally tend to be. And their relationship, they just hit it off right from the first moment. So she's helping him learn how to ride a scooter, which of course I had never had opportunity to do or thought about doing, and Adam loved it. So this was a real gift this week for us. I can vividly remember walking to the hospital when Adam was first admitted there in Germany. He was only a few days old, and I had this clear thought, this is not my child. And I don't know why I thought that, except that has stayed with me forever, that I really feel this Adam is God's child. And that's not to say I don't have that same feeling with my other two, but I felt it acutely with Adam. He is God's child. This means that he is going to ask me to let the lines of our family, the lines of my relationship with Adam, be blurred a bit. And that's uncomfortable, but it's good. So Adam is God's, and God wants to give parts of Adam to lots of people. I've learned to let other people in, to cherish their role in Adam's life as a friend and as a teacher, because everyone has something to teach, not just Adam, but our family through him. and Adam has a lot to teach other people as well. We wouldn't be the people that we are without these friends who come alongside us. And Adam wouldn't be the person that he is. He still doesn't really ride a scooter, but he likes to try. And if you ever want to help him out, it's fun. So what skills of the wider community are we using in our ministry? And are we going beyond just talking about the gospel to walking alongside each other and living it together? I think those are questions that I've continued to mull over, especially in practical work, and not just in family. Being where Adam is equals being with him. This is my dad, and my dad really gets it. He knew that if he was going to sit on the couch and wait for Adam to come and sit next to him, he better have a really good book, because it's not going to happen. We'd gone to Florida the same trip, 2010. It was summer. So from summer in Aberdeen, which is summer, really, no offense, John, to summer in Florida, that's a big difference. And Adam could not find any place to be cool except laying on the floor. So he spent a lot of time on the floor. And my dad just finally laid down next to him. And I had a few other pictures, Adam kind of looking over and seeing him and you could tell he's thinking, what's this guy doing here? But he really enjoyed that moment. We experience a lot of moments with Adam that I like to call knowing unconformity. So he does things different. He does things very differently sometimes. And we can either spend our life being uncomfortable about the distance between what Adam does and what is normal in our world, or we can just be with him and let him do his thing and learn from him. One of Adam's many gifts, I think, is this freedom he gives us to be who we are. He doesn't demand of us to be anything other than who we are. And the implicit response is, you also let me be who I am. So that's what we need to do. And I could tell you many, many stories about how Adam has challenged us. Whenever we walk through a restaurant, he likes to take drinks off of tables and just have a little sip as he goes along. And, people will, it's surprise, but those moments of surprise open up something that would not ever otherwise be opened up. I'm very much a rule keeper, so I would never open those moments if I had a chance. So in what ways do we allow our ministry with people with disabilities, our life with people with disabilities, to be what they need it to be and not just what we need it to be? How are we changed by that process of knowing unconformity that's all around us as we walk alongside people? So being with Adam is being where he is, even when that means being in front of a gentleman's club. I don't know if you can read the neon writing in there is Gentleman's Club. And this is indeed another moment of knowing unconformity. We were walking along Bourbon Street, came through New Orleans, and you walk along Bourbon Street in the early evening, and you start hearing music from the clubs. And Adam loves music. He's drawn to it, like a moth to the flame. And so he wanted to stand right in the doorway of these bars, everyone we walked past, and dance. And for Adam, dancing is full body, it's noticeable. So we all kind of, we'd kind of be, oh dear, here he goes again, and what do we do? How long do we let him stand? And his brother was unflapped, just came along and stood next to him. And I remember Adam even got some drumsticks thrown to him because one of the bands enjoyed the fact that he was listening so much. They, and threw the drumstick at him. So I love this because what it actually looks like and what it really is are two completely different things, aren't they? Often what we see and what we think is happening is just the surface layer, and scratching that surface layer and getting to what's actually happening underneath. Adam is enjoying a passion. He's allowing himself to revel in a moment. And really, how could I deprive him of that? So what are any obstacles that we might face in our ministries, in our lives, in appearance or in reality? And do we allow the people in our ministries, in our lives, to follow their passions farther than we are comfortable with? Do we allow those moments to happen for their sake and not kind of change it to the way we think it should look? So what you need to know and what you need to forget. This photo, I was just looking back at photos. I don't know, every now and again you kind of do that, don't you? And I was sitting there with our middle son, Caleb, who's now 9, and we were looking at these photos and came across, and Caleb always says, oh, how cute. This was Adam's birthday, and he'd just gotten this musical table thing that he was loving. So we were sitting there and enjoying this photo until I thought, when was this taken? And I looked, and it's his 7th birthday. And when Caleb and I thought that, we sort of looked at each other, and it was almost like, the mood came down a little bit, because, 7-year-olds don't usually look like that. So what we first saw and then the reality were two different things. And this made me think, there's so much in our life personally, that we just force ourselves to forget. We need to just put out of our mind what we think we're supposed to be doing, what we think Adam's supposed to be doing, and we are right there with him in what he is doing and who he is. He's enjoying this musical table, and that is a good moment, and that's what it should be. But what Adam looks like for other people obviously creates barriers, and our children notice that. Our middle son notices that. He feels that pretty powerfully. So we force ourselves to forget a lot. And I think the point is that, in ministry, in life, we have to forget what we think we were going to do, what we thought we were going to do, who we think we might want to love, and we love the person that is right in front of us. We love the people we're given. We love the people in the place we're put, and we do the work that God has asked us to do that's right in front of us. It's a good thing that God knows what we need before we even know it. And if I'm honest, would I have chosen the life that I have? Probably not. I'm pretty weak. But I'm glad that God knew what I needed to work on me. We laugh when, there's a lot of well-meaning comments that you get when you have a person with a disability in your life. One of them is, you're so special. God knew that you could look after Adam better than anyone else. And I think, are you kidding me? God knew how much work I needed. And he said, I think Adam will do the trick. So I'll give him to her. It's a good process, but it's not without its difficulties. And don't want to whitewash that. When things click in for Adam is when the fun really begins. We went to I don't know if any of you have heard of Horseboy UK. It's a camp for children with autism which Adam is also diagnosed with autism at age 4. And that's largely the reason why he doesn't speak. And the children with autism can ride horses, and this is kind of a therapy. This is an organization that does this kind of therapy with kids, and they have great results. So when we went, I had high hopes, and for a few days, Adam wouldn't even look at the horses. And, of course, you try not to think about how much money you spent to be there and how important it is to me that he connect with the horses and learn how to speak by the end of the week. And, again, just forget what you think you're going to do, and you're there for whatever purpose God has. You can't make anything happen for Adam. It will happen in God's timing and the way that Adam's going to do it. The important thing is to keep waiting for that moment and not lose heart. And that's what I try to remind myself every single day. Just keep waiting. I have hopes for what Adam will do. I keep waiting for those. I keep praying for those, and I need to be ready for them. And I also need to be ready for the moment, what it looks like, not what I want it to look like, what it's going to look like. So when he finally did get onto the horse, he wouldn't get off. And that was the problem. He loved it. And, trying to get him to give a turn to another child was a bit problematic, but he loved it. So the question here, what moments are we hoping for in our ministry and in our life? What are we waiting for? And have we set our sights too low? Do we need to set our sights higher? Do we need to dream big? Do we need to hope for all that God wants for us and expect good things from him? And then Adam brings us along with him into the new world of his life. This is that same camp. And once he finally got into the the riding, like I said, he wouldn't give anyone else a shot, so we put his brother on behind him, and they went together. It takes time for Adam to adjust to anything, and we need to allow for that time as parents and as a family and as community. We need to allow for that time for him to absorb and to enjoy something and to revel in the new acquisition of his skill. And keep waiting in that moment to see what connections and what relationships will come of it. Again, I can't make anything happen, but I can facilitate and I can watch and enjoy with him. I do think our society here and in the UK moves so fast, and it often leaves the Adams of the world behind. So we need to slow down. How can we consciously slow down and allow time for people to keep up? Sometimes it takes a long time for Adam to comply with something, but he will do it. And it's a good thing for me to let him have that space to be who he is. So what do we miss in our ministries from moving too fast? If we slowed down, where would the people in our lives take us? Experiencing the joy even in the midst of struggle. This, we'd gone on a walk with a friend, and I don't know if you can tell from the photo, but Adam is just coming down with chickenpox. His sister had been born 5 weeks before, and all 3 of the kids came down with chickenpox in the same 2-week period, which, the blessing of God, it was Easter holidays. So, it's all fun and games until someone misses school, and then there's a problem. So this is one of those moments where it's great, and then everything falls apart the next day. This is the beginning of years of struggle. We didn't know it. If I had known it, I wouldn't have enjoyed that smile so much. I probably wouldn't have taken that photo. I wouldn't have been there with him. So just a very simple question. What brings joy in your life? What brings joy in your ministry? How can we allow for just moments of pure enjoyment together? And in what ways can we pray specifically about God using difficult moments to bring us joy as a community, as a family, as a group, and teach us about joy, living alongside one another in struggle? I've actually found that some of the families I know who have the most difficult situation, what I would consider the most difficult, much more difficult than ours, are some of the happiest people I know. And this is even non-Christians. This is amazing, what happens in someone's life when they adapt. People say to me, I could never do what you're doing, and I think, oh, you're going to miss out then. Honestly, even in the midst of all of it, there is just great joy. So I don't know if you can see very well, this picture tells you a lot. In June 2011, just after the previous photo was taken, Adam was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So the doctors kind of wondered if the chickenpox had anything to do with that. Sometimes that can happen. But he began and completed 2 years and 4 months of chemotherapy, and he's now been clear for 1.5 years. And next summer, if he continues the way he is, he will be declared cured, which is pretty amazing. This is his first day of school after the most awful summer of our lives. We were in the hospital every single day. And again, God's blessing, it was about 2 weeks before school had ended, he was diagnosed. He went right through the summer and was able to start his first day of school with no hair and his new jumper, and he was so happy. We try very hard to keep things normal as possible. And I think this is a skill that, in particular, families who live with disability learn how to do. We really learn to pretend like nothing's happened. It's fine. A little cancer, no problem. It's fine. This is a strength. This is also a weakness. It's very comforting for me to just kind of be normal. But I think being aware as well of what's inside, what we're hiding, what's really going on, that's also important. This means, on one hand, as a parent, as a mother, I have to let my barriers down and be real with people. This is a challenge sometimes. On the other hand, we have to become astute observers of each other, don't we? We have to be astute in our observations and bold enough to say, can we be real together and talk about what's going on. People have challenged me to do that and gotten me beyond the it's fine, and most of the time I cry, and that's okay, that's a good thing. So what do we know about the families' lives in our ministry, in our community? What do we know about what they're really dealing with? What new normal are they experiencing? That is normal for them, but it's not without pain. How can this inform our ministry? And I'm not just talking about disability or leukemia. I'm talking about sleeplessness and violence and just normal pain that we go through. Fears for the future. Bringing passions to a manageable level during crisis. Adam loves, another thing he loves, which doesn't tend to happen in front of a gentleman's club, is the swings. So he can ride the swings pretty painlessly. But during his illness, he was unable to walk for a period, and he was really too ill. So we bought a swing and put it in the backyard. And this is a very simple illustration. But I think that the point for us is that every family, every person is adapting to something. And when we have disability, when we add that into the mix, we need to adapt. We need to be ready and willing to adapt to the people in front of us and try to find creative ways to bring their passions within reach of all of us, to bring what we do within reach of them. So in what ways is our ministry flexible and able to adapt to fit people's needs? In what ways do we need to practice sensitivity and flexibility in living with people? Again, my dad getting on the floor, it wasn't very comfortable for him. He's got aging knees, and he would hate that I said that, but it's true. But it's, in what ways do we need to adapt ourselves? So just creating a space where someone can be who they are is huge. It doesn't have to be a big fancy thing. It's just creating a space where they can be comfortable. Families are always struggling to fit in. Our family is always struggling to fit into normal life. It's not the other way around. So we have a responsibility to adapt as well and make it easier for them. Families are tired of adapting. So when they don't have to, that's really great. The role of charity, help in many guises. This is a really nice woman from a charity in Aberdeen called Children's Hospice Association of Scotland. And they provide more than hospice care. They provide short and long-term respite breaks for families. So we got connected with them. One of Adam's consultants really didn't think he was going to do well in treatment, so she wanted us to get connected. And then we found that we really enjoyed being there with them. But the idea of receiving help is difficult for us, isn't it? We don't like to need help. We don't like to be the ones who can't do it all on our own. But I knew from the very first minute with Adam, I am not going to do this on my own. I'm going to have to find people who know what they're doing and they can help me. And then when he was diagnosed with cancer, we needed extra support. And it was a good thing. And we've met some fantastic people over the years who've come alongside our family. We had 1 year that we lived in North Carolina, and I tried to kind of set things up for Adam. And I don't know what any experiences in here. I hope I'll hear about it. But I just remember being on the phone constantly and trying to talk to people and filling out paperwork. And then in the end, nothing manifested. So it's a double-edged sword, receiving help from services, finding services to support you, but also going through all of the rigmarole it takes to get there. But one question I have is, why should we let only the charities do the work? Why shouldn't the church come alongside families and support them in some of the similar ways that are accessible and feasible for a church to do? I'm mainly asking this question of Aberdeen. There's no connection with church and disability to any significant degree there. And I have seen there was a flyer from this Calvary church that we were at for the conference, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what's going on here. I suspect there's similar kind of buddy mentoring type programs, things that are going on in churches here that are amazing, and I'm taking that back to Aberdeen, and I'm going to say, why can't we do this to my own church, to people around me? What ways can churches come alongside families and support them in more than just a Sunday school kind of way? Like, in what way can we really be with families and live life with them together? who is with us in the midst of the storm, faith on the rocks. Adam went along with me to do I love taking photos of Aberdeen storms. There's a lighthouse in the background there, and Aberdeen storms are tremendous in the kind of early spring and early autumn. And Adam came along with me. It was an awful day, and he just sat there smiling and very patient and waited with me. And I just thought, he's been... Ooh, glad I had that water. Thank you. He's been my rock. And there have been, many times when I thought, Lord, you've lied to me. You are not going to, just test me to what I can manage. You're going to test me way over and beyond what I can manage. This is not fair. But if Adam can do it, I can do it. So that's, it's been a real amazing relationship with him, sitting in the hospital and just thinking, how can he go through this again? And then he smiles and waves and he's off, and okay, if he can do it, I can do it, right? This is the challenge. This is real faith is not easily explained or categorized, and I'm not saying I have real faith. I'm saying God is developing in me this real faith. God is developing in our communities when we engage with people who we don't really know what to do with. This is the truth. God is really using those relationships to bring us into a picture of what he wants for our lives. So where is God? In the midst of the storm, he is everywhere. He is everywhere. He's not just at my church on Sundays, which I couldn't even pay attention to. He's at the hospital bed. He's in the hand holding of the siblings. He's in all those moments that are not pretty and that I wish weren't happening. And he is in the very good moments that come alongside them as well. And I've been grateful for that. In our ministries, can we accommodate the faith that families have, which is sometimes absolutely nothing and sometimes full up to the brim? Can we accommodate that when we're doing ministry, when we're living with people? Is that okay for them to be who they are? Developing skills means allowing for creative pursuit. Adam loves ice cream. And one of the ways that social care is done in the UK is now they're moving towards a model of giving money to families to manage their own budget. So we had some money for this, this pilot project, and I bought an ice cream maker because I thought Adam would enjoy learning how to make ice cream. He could do this with me together. We could do it as a family and see where it comes from, straight from the cream right to the good stuff. But he stuck with the cream. We got bogged down in the cream bit. So, but this is this is good. When Adam enjoys something, he enjoys it all the way. How much freedom and flexibility are we willing to pursue in our ministries? I do like things kind of neat and tidy, and I've had to learn with Adam just to go with the flow. This is good. How can we use the skills and passions of the people in our community to shape our ministries? This I am no expert on. I'm looking forward to hearing Denise do some speaking about education, but in Aberdeen, Adam goes to a special needs school, and this is one of the ways they do a visual schedule for him. So we went to the Netherlands last year for 3 months on sabbatical, so I took Adam's work with us, and I was bound and determined to kind of do what they do in class. But I think he cottoned on to the fact that we're not in school, so I'm not going to play the game. And it was an interesting, again, just adjusting to what is, not what I want to happen. But we carried on. I'd run out of their little cards, their little board maker symbols, so I took pieces of yellow paper and drew on them when we were going to go for a walk or go to the shops or whatever. The amount of work that goes into something like this is huge. But what it means for Adam is that he is then able to engage with the day, which otherwise is just, incomprehensible for him. But it breaks the day down into a manageable way that he can understand it. And he can communicate. When he's done with something, he takes the little square out and puts it in the finished box. And so he knows he's part of his environment there. And in our ministries, in our families, in our lives, how much work are we willing to put in so that children and adults of all abilities are able to engage with what's going on? How do we organize our environments so that we can include everyone in to the extent of their abilities to be part of that? I went to, with Welcoming Church Forum, I went and there was a church in a small town outside of Aberdeen that asked me to come and help them because they've got a young boy with autism who's there. And one of my first questions, I just asked them questions all night, and they figured out a plan amongst themselves. But one of my first questions was, who can you tap into? Who knows about this child? I don't know this child. Who can you tap into who knows about him? You have to get permission to ask the schools, but once you do that, once you get a conversation going, they would know a lot more about him than they know just standing back going, what do we do? So I hope that conversation was helpful for them and helps us to look at people in our communities differently. The future, what does it hold, and how can I get there with grace? We went to a L'Arche community, which, if anyone's familiar with L'Arche, it's a Catholic community. There's many, many all over the world, and where people with and without disabilities live together. And we spent a week at what they call the farm in Trolley-Brule in France, and just loved it. But of course, Brian and I were there thinking about Adam's future. It's not that far off until he'll be an adult, and is this the kind of place where he could be? And we were thinking, this is good. There's lovely people here. Really enjoyed it. And then our middle son Caleb, who's there on the left of that photo, he just made a comment to me on as we were leaving, I really hope Adam doesn't come here. It's awful. And that really surprised me. Caleb is a very perceptive, smart boy, and he, as much as he seemed to be kind of doing his own thing for that week, he too was thinking about, is this the kind of place where Adam would go? And it's really interesting, that tension that we find even within our own family about the future. What does the future hold? What's it going to look like? We can't remove the fact that our sensibilities for where we think Adam should be are also part of that conversation, but it's a difficult conversation to have. The future, I don't have any answers about the future. We'll talk about that in a few years, I think. But at least I wish we could talk about it in a few years. It really is frightening for a lot of parents. So we can't just think about now. We do also think about the future. We think about how our relationships will look in the future. So our ministries, how will they be sustainable for the long haul? How will they support people through these key transitions into school, into junior school, into high school, and adulthood? How can we come alongside them in those difficult conversations? The last few slides are just moments from Adam's life that I have really enjoyed. This one, Down's kids have a great sense of humor. This is true. I found it over and over again, and Adam in particular loves a laugh, and this one he just had taken his brother's cup of juice and drank it, and then his brother was screaming and Adam was laughing. So, just those moments are ones to enjoy. He is as much a normal boy in there as anyone, and he needs to have times when he bugs his brother, and the siblings have been really good for him, and that's what we hoped for. But Adam's been really good for them too. And I took Adam out for coffee one morning, and it just sort of occurred to me to get him one of these little baby chinos they do. They have this Cafe Nero in Aberdeen, and he loved it. You should have seen him. He took this, and he took the spoon, and he stirred it, then he put the spoon down, and he would have had his pinky out, I think, if he could have. He just loved this little cup of coffee. And again, the moments that surprise you, God is really doing something there. There's something there that's just amazing, how can we even just in our ministries and our lives break things down to very simple pleasures and enjoy those together? This was Adam's birthday. I think it was his 10th birthday. There's always reason to celebrate. As you can see, he's got his hand over Brian's mouth because Brian was about to blow the candles out, and Adam's like, nope, I'm doing it. But again, wait for me, because it'll be a minute. But we, especially once Adam was diagnosed with leukemia, we started celebrating everything. Every tiny little thing is a reason to celebrate. And I think in our churches and our communities, we shouldn't forget this either, that everything is a reason to celebrate. We're here, we're alongside each other, this is good. And you know, we don't know what's around the corner for any of us, so let's just be in this moment now together. And the last one, this, I love this slide, friendship, where it begins and ends for Adam. This, at the end of the day, is what anyone needs and wants, isn't it? This is what Adam needs, is friendship. And I worry about this for him, but he seems to have a lot of friends, whether he gives back to them or not, and that's that's God moving in him, and I'm glad for chances to see it. This was when we lived in North Carolina, I enrolled Adam in a basketball class for children with disabilities. And again, he wanted none of it. He was not going to pick up that ball for anything. So, you know, I had to lay aside my expectations. What he ended up doing was, this is his friend Elliot, and he ended up finding Elliot every Saturday morning, and they just hugged for a long time. And I thought, this is why I signed him up for this class. This, for Adam, is what it is really about. The work that I've done with Welcoming Church has also enabled me to come alongside two mothers who felt it very important, a church in Aberdeen, to try to put together confirmation materials for two young men with learning disabilities in their congregation. And they received no support other than, you know, one woman who is the children's minister at the church. They put this together over a couple of years. They finally got enough support, you know, enough kind of materials behind them, and put together a session of 6 sessions of confirmation teaching. And last November, we went to the confirmation of one of the boys. The other one is still kind of thinking about it, but one of the boys with Down syndrome, who is another of Adam's buddies from way back, he got confirmed. And that was like a joyous celebration in itself. You know, everything about it was. I went to one of the sessions and I did some video work, and again, the session was full of hugs. These two boys were really learning how to love each other, which, if that's not the gospel, if that's not our faith, then I don't know what is. So again, at the end of the day, we don't need big fancy programs, do we? We don't need a lot of technology. We don't need to have PDFs and everything else and resources. We need to be able to love and to engage with who we're given, who's in front of us, and to help create the space to be with God. If this is my last thing, I think I've talked for quite a while, I'm sorry. The woman who was a children's minister at that church, she had no previous connection with disability ministry at all, and had just, you know, said she would help because of her role. She's written a really interesting reflection that I'd like to close with. So these are her words. Her name's Henna Kundal, and she's in Aberdeen, and I hope she's going to be the person who takes over my post soon with the diocese. But she says this about her time in this special confirmation project. I have learned that I never needed training, qualifications, or expertise to be involved in this project. My instinct was to think that ministry to those with special needs would be too hard, too complex for someone like me with no training or experience, but that simply isn't true. The parents and carers and the young people themselves are ready-made experts in their own needs. The only qualification required is to get to know those needs and let the young people and those who know them well guide you as to how to proceed. I've noticed how very, very few people actually choose to get involved with teaching and ministering to people with special needs. The majority of those involved with special needs ministry get involved because they've had a child or a sibling with special needs. The church would be doing a phenomenal thing if it were to overcome inhibition and make a commitment to breaking that trend. Most churches are willing to accommodate people with special needs who come to them, but I wonder if Jesus himself would stop at that. I suspect not. I think he would go out and purposely seek those whom society unjustly marginalizes. He would say that the kingdom of heaven belongs firstly to those. It has challenged me, as someone whose job it is to grow the church's ministry to children and young people, to know that I am called to make straight paths for ministry to young people with special needs. Those were her words after being involved in this project, and I am grateful to have seen this transformation in her and talked with her about it along the way.
We hope you enjoyed this message. Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Learn more at biola.edu.